Greetings, growers worldwide. Jordan River here. And today we're back at you with some wonderful grow content. Jim Eagan from Plant Success is here to talk. We love Plant Success. We love Jim. He's got a lot to say. It's a really, really great episode diving into microbes and his products specifically. It's good stuff. I know you're going to love it. Before we jump in with Jim, got to shout out Rain Science Grow Bags. RainScienceGrowBags.com, the best containers for growing cannabis. Use code GrowCast for 10% off your Rain Science Grow Bags. And find all of our discounts at GrowCastPodcast.com/discounts. Rain Science Grow Bags, though, man, they are the best. You will get the air pruning, much like a fabric pot, but these things are durable. They last a lifetime. You can clean them. They're so much easier to clean than the alternatives. And they have little Velcro unfasteners. They are the best, man. I really like these mesh grow bags, and Rain Science makes what you need. All sorts of sizes, different shapes, tall ones for autoflowers, small ones, cones. You're going to love RainScienceGrowBags.com, code GrowCast for 10% off, folks. And take a snapshot of you using one of our codes, DM it to us on Instagram or in the growers chat, and you're entered to win GrowCast Seed Co. seeds. That's if you're in the US, everybody. And like I said, see all our discounts at GrowCastPodcast.com/discounts. All right, everybody, let's get into it with Jim Eagan. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Hello, podcast listeners. You are now listening to GrowCast. I'm your host, Jordan River, and I want to thank you for tuning in today. Before we get started, I urge you to share GrowCast, spread the show, share it with a grower. Make sure you subscribe and give us a good review. It helps us out, folks. Thank you so much. Today, we have a return guest. I can't believe it's been so long since he's been on the show. From Plant Revolution, who makes the Plant Success line. You guys love Great White and all their products, including the brand new King Crab. We have Jim from Plant Success and Revolution on the line. What's up, Jim?
Not much, Jordan. Nice to talk to you, man. And indeed, it has been too long.
Yeah, I agree, man. I've been using your products, loving your products. You came on our show. God, it's probably been a year or multiple years ago now. It was a great episode. I see you've been just absolutely destroying the grow game, for lack of a better. You're just absolutely blowing up, man. Love what you're doing with Plant Success, the Mycorrhizal line, all of your beneficial bacterias. What's been happening since our last discussion, Jim?
You know, it's funny that you say we're blowing up. I mean, I feel like we're just doing the same things we've been doing since our founding. You know, we continue to just produce really high quality products. People, you know, companies come and go, and there's new companies, but we really just focus on the fundamentals. We produce really high quality microbes. That's mycorrhizal fungi, beneficial soil bacteria. Continue to educate people, continue to give, the best customer support that we can. And yeah, we've got a new product to hit the market. For me, it seems like it's been an eternity. We've been testing it for 5 years to really make sure that, everything's on point. We've tested in all situations, and registration generally in our line of work takes a long time. We're just kind of chugging along, doing our thing. Seems like the industry is growing, but on our end, we're just continued, like I said, to stick to the fundamentals. And
I love it, man.
Been working out.
Staying in your lane. You're right. It's like new states come online. And when that happens, new growers start up their grow. And then at a certain point, they discover mycorrhiza. And they're like, holy shit. Like, I just picked up some Great White, or I just used Orca in my hydro grow. And then they make a post about it on IG. Maybe that's what I'm seeing, man, because it's like new to them. You know what I mean? So you got to be excited to see all these new states come online, much like I am so excited about. Loving it though, man. I want to dive into. I'm loving the King Crab. I'm loving the King Crab, man. So I want to dive into that today. Talk about your flagship lines, all of that. First, though, why don't we talk about your company really quickly? Plant Success is your kind of line of products, and the parent company, Plant Revolution. You said you were testing the crab for 5 years. That's insane. Talk to me about the rich history of Plant Revolution, how far back you guys go, and why you guys are so passionate about what you do.
Yeah, it's funny to see, like you said, new growers kind of come into the space. I mean, we've been here for so long, and yeah, it's a slow process of people discovering us, and we constantly have to remind ourselves that, there's the old guard, people that have been doing it for a long time, and that's many of our friends and even family. And there's so many new growers coming into the space all the time that we're just trying to find ways to reach them and kind of help them understand where we fit in the whole line of growing. And it's really fun. It's really fun when people start to understand the biology of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's kind of three aspects in growing. There's the plant and the roots itself, the organism. There's the fertilizer and the foods and the environment. And really between the plant and the fertilizer, you have the biology, which is to me the most fascinating and little understood, but quickest growing aspect of agriculture.
So true.
And yeah, we've been doing it since the 90s. Really, the research came out of the 80s. And my uncle was working in the Forest Service, and really the scientific community started to understand the biology a lot better in the 80s and 90s. And we developed the first real mycorrhizal inoculants for the commercial line. They were using them in the Forest Service for reforestation efforts, but it really hadn't been developed into a product at that point. So in 1999, we started our business and we started producing this mycorrhizal fungi, a type of soil biology. And I'll give it kind of a brief summary of what that is.
Sure.
But so mycorrhizal fungi, it's a living organism. It's one of the major types of fungus that exists on planet Earth. It helped plants transition from the ocean to the lands almost 450 million years ago.
Jeez.
It grows on 90% of the world's plants. It grows on their root system, and it partners with plants to help them get phosphorus, minerals, nutrients, other things out of the soil. And the plant in return photosynthesizes sunlight and sends sugars down to this fungus. So, it's a symbiotic relationship. And not only that, but, around these fungi and working in concert with all of this fungus in the plant is bacteria, which is what we're going to talk about. Our new product is the bacteria side of things. Last time I came on, we really dove deep into mycorrhizal fungi. But the other frontier of beneficial soil biology is the bacteria.
Right.
So we started in the 90s. Like I said, our original line was Plant Success tablets, granular and soluble. That's how people kind of started to get to know us. Once we started to get more acquainted with the types of agriculture that we discuss on this show, the cannabis.
Cannabis.
Sound like an old man. The cannabis.
Get acquainted with the cannabis. I'm well acquainted with the cannabis.
That's right. Intimately acquainted with the cannabis. So we started working with growers basically, and they wanted higher concentrations. They wanted something a little cleaner to run through their their drip lines and their emitters and their reservoirs, and so we came out with the Great White, and that was really targeted to indoor growers. I mean, it can be used in soil, but it's just cuts out the BS, so to speak. Very highly concentrated, and even a step beyond that, we came out with a pure liquid, right? So clear, pure liquid. Just drop it right in your reservoir. Super easy to use. You don't even got to mix it in water. It's usually what I've been using these days.
That's the Orca, right?
That's the liquid mycorrhizae, the Orca.
That is my favorite out of your line. I mean, the King Crab might actually now be my favorite, but the Orca liquid is the one that I love it, man, because especially in a seedling setup, I want mycorrhiza and beneficial bacteria in my rhizosphere as early as possible.
Yep.
And I don't usually plant my seeds with granular. So what I do is I throw in that Orca once they're a little bit established, because you do the clean water at first. Your seedlings can take care of themselves in an inert media. But as soon as I can, a little bit of compost tea, a little bit of Orca, I'm telling you, man, it's a freaking game changer. So yeah, I love that Orca. I just had to shout that out.
It's so easy. It's so easy. I mean, even when I'm like, I don't want to, mix up all this stuff, and, maybe I'm like trying not to put too much nutrients on my plants. Just drop some Orca in. It barely affects the pH. It barely affects the parts per million. It's just like so easy. All this beneficial biology, and it makes your roots super white.
Killer product.
So yeah, so we've been doing that for almost 20 years, and really the next evolution, or people have been asking us to come out with this for a while. And the king crab is the next product in that series, and it's a pure bacteria. And we'll kind of explain, the benefits of coming out with pure bacteria, how it relates to the other products, and how it relates to kind of other products in the market.
Oh, please. Yeah, because I see there's a whole host of bacteria on the back of that king crab, some of which I recognize, some of which I didn't. Please enlighten us on everything you just said, how the product works, how it interacts, anything about king crab.
Yeah. So, let's kind of go over the kind of what's in it. So you have 11 species of beneficial soil bacteria. You have some phosphorus solubilizing bacteria, which basically keep phosphorus available for the plant so it doesn't get locked up. You can use a little less phosphorus and the plant will get it. Right. Less of it will wash through because the bacteria will actually turn it into their tissues. And as they stay in the root zone, it doesn't wash away.
Whoa.
They will die. That becomes available to the plant. So you're actually having less runoff. You have nitrogen fixing bacteria in the mix. You can think of like your azos. That's kind of their thing. There's a couple species in ours that do that as well. I think like 3 or 4. And so there's 11 species, and the CFU count, which is colony forming units, that's how they measure bacteria.
It's absurd.
Yeah. So if you look on the back of a biology product, you'll see either spores or propagules. That's basically viable pieces of mycorrhizae that will germinate. Sometimes mycorrhizae is spore. Sometimes it's root fragments that are filled with spores. Those are called propagules. Mm-hmm. Both are viable. We've discovered in our research over the years. And then on the bacteria side, you have colony forming units, usually per milliliter. So the king crab has, let's start with the orca. So the orca has about 325,000 CFUs per milliliter, but the orca also has the mycorrhizae. That's really why you're using it. So it has mycorrhizae and bacteria. Bacteria is at about 325,000 CFUs per milliliter.
Jeez. Great
white, once again, is bacteria and mycorrhizae. The bacteria count in the great white is about 6.8 million. So then you step over to the king crab, and the king crab is 275 million CFUs per milliliter. It just blows it out of the water.
50 times higher?
Yeah, it's a concentrate of bacteria. So, and then how does that kind of compare around the industry? So you look at something like azos from Extreme, and it's about 1 million. It's a single species, Azos beryllium, I believe. I may be pronouncing that wrong, but so that's a 1 million CFUs of one species. You look over to something like your mammoth P, mm-hmm. and mammoth P is coming in at about 200 million CFUs. So also very concentrated. They're about 4 species.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So 4 species, 200 million CFUs. And then king crab, once again, highest diversity, 11 species, 275 million CFUs per milliliter.
Lowest dosage too, by the way. Tiny little bottle will last you forever.
Exactly. So, you're not buying a bunch of inert media.
Crazy, man.
So that's kind of the makeup of it. It's just our super concentrated bacteria product.
Wow.
And it's super affordable. I mean, so for like a 32-ounce bottle, you're paying about $70. The same in Mammoth P would be about $270. The same thing in Azos would be about $130. So you're cutting the price by a third or in half compared to these other products. And the bacteria count is just off the charts.
That's killer, man. Now, I got to be clear. I love mixing up my microbial products. A lot of the products you just named are in my garden, but king crab Absolutely. Is now a staple, and it is in my rotation. So it sounds like there's a lot of different benefits from this. I'll tell you right now, man, I am so happy. I finally, 2 runs into this organic setup, I finally feel like I got it dialed in. My young plants are praying. The king crab is incorporated, and it's been part of that. I fixed my water completely. I've been a couple huge strides here. Before we get back to Jim Eagan, I must ask you, what brand of fans do you have in your tent or in your grow space? If it's not an AC Infinity fan, I've got a code for you. Time for you to upgrade to the best. ACinfinity.com make the best grow fans. They make sick grow tents too, durable and thick. Use code GrowCast15 for 15% off. Now, there was a glitch. It said this was a one-time code briefly. We fixed it. Use this code forever, always. GrowCast15. And like I said, send us a DM snapshot of you using this code to be entered to win free seeds. ACinfinity.com, man. Woo! You will find what you need. Their T series is their smart series. It has a little computer readout. You can link multiple fans to the computer. It can kick on, kick off at different temperatures, alert you. Really, really great stuff. But don't sleep on the S series, the simple series. It's got a 10-speed fan controller, which is, I mean, these things are powerful, man. Even the 4-inch is powerful, and the 10-speed fan controller allows you to customize it. Not automated, but still customizable. They're the best. One thing that they don't even tell you is that they're extremely light. Very, very easy to hang up. Plus, they are powerful and whisper quiet. ACinfinity.com. Use code GrowCast15. Send us a snapshot if you're in the USA, of course. And find all our discounts at growcastpodcast.com/discounts. All right, let's get back to Jim Eagan. If you had to say what the king crab does, I mean, that might be hard with the 11 different species with the nitrogen fixing and the phosphorus and all of that. But like, let me put it this way. Is there a portion of the growth cycle that you would recommend king crab in more than another? Or is it just one of those things that's just going to help your soil biology and help the healthier plant no matter what?
The best analogy that I've been able to come up with thus far, it's your engine oil. Think about a car. If you know how a car engine works, think about an engine trying to run without oil lubricating it.
Right, it's going to break
down. You know what I
mean? You got to keep your rhizosphere running smoothly, is what you're saying.
Well, yeah, exactly. And, your fertilizer without biology, it's super clunky and it gets locked up and it's plants evolved with biology, a symphony of biology around every root tip, around every root hair. And it's really the job of the biology to adjust the pH so that certain nutrients can unlock certain nutrients and get it into the plant.
Right.
They literally dissolve rock and phosphorus and make it available to the plant. So when you don't have biology going on, unless everything is perfectly chelated, perfectly the right pH, perfectly the right temperature, even in that situation, you may not be getting maximum uptake. Whereas when you have a rich biology that's proven and a diverse array of that biology, you're making sure that all of those nutrients and all of those rocks and all of that is working in concert for the plant. And the concert for the plant really choreographs all of that. So they actually, like I said, release sugars into the soil environment to either boost or detract from certain biology depending on the needs of the plant.
Right.
That's kind of the easiest way I can say it.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. So, a best phase. I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's a worst or a best phase.
It sounds like a broad spectrum type of, because I mean, let's take the aforementioned Mammoth P, again, a product I love, but that is phosphorus solubilizing bacteria. You need a lot of phosphorus in flower. That's when I recommend you use Mammoth P. Now, it's also a good idea to splash it in occasionally in veg. There's nothing wrong with that. But that's a flowering microbial product, let's be honest. It sounds like Great White is kind of a full stage, full spectrum microbial product, if you will.
Yeah, well, Great White versus King Crab. Yeah,
I say Great White? I meant King Crab. Sorry.
Yeah,
Misspoke.
Yeah. Well, Great White, it has the mycorrhizal in there. So
I meant the King Crab.
I mean, that's an even wider spectrum. But yeah, I mean, King Crab, in addition to on top of the Great White, you're just supercharging the bacteria. So like Great White has a great diverse concentrate version of the bacteria package, but King Crab is just off the charts. And like I said, some of these bacteria thrive in various pHs. So depending on the situation of your root system, certain bacteria are going to thrive and certain bacteria are going to die off.
Wow.
So by having that diversity of species in there, almost any environment that it comes in contact with, it's going to have a species that can provide what the plant needs. Some of them are nitrogen fixing. So your early stages of growth, you're keeping that nitrogen available to the plant. Your later stages of growth, there's about 6 species of phosphorus solubilizing bacteria. So you're making sure that phosphorus stays available to the plant. Like I said, it's that engine oil pretty much that keeps everything lubricated and moving how it should in the root system. And, you'll see it. Don't use a biology versus have a biology in your grow, and just look at your root system when you're transplanting or when you're done growing, and you'll see. I mean, they're super white. They're super you can just see the health and the
Yep.
vigor of them.
They're thick and fuzzy. Yeah, they almost explode into a whole different looking being as opposed to I love my sterile salt growers, but a lot of times in those salt growers they get those plastic pots and they get these roots that go out to the edge of the pot and they spiral and spin and they pull them out and it's like, oh, look at this wall of roots, very impressive. But in reality, they don't have that same thickness, that same lateral branching with the fuzziness, with the hairs.
Right.
It's just not quite the same. So it's interesting.
Right. Yeah. So, I guess to narrow down some of the specific kind of advantage or some of the specific things the bacteria does.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So it helps buffer the pH for nutrient availability. So we kind of talked about that already. But they're, both fungi, mycorrhizal fungi, and the bacteria have the ability to kind of move the pH up and down in increments, really small increments around the roots to actually, unlock those nutrients and get them up into the root system. We all know how important it is to keep the pH, between that kind of 6.3 to 6.8 range. But even within that, you're going to be fluctuating throughout a grow, but the bacteria really can take control and make what needs to happen to get those micronutrients up into the soil. They also produce numerous enzymes and organic acids. So kind of what we were talking about, enzymes really help break down organic matter that's stuck in the roots. Even the roots themselves slough off organic matter as they grow.
Right.
And so that's kind of what you're seeing. If you see like the brown roots or the dead roots when you're done growing in a certain portion of the pot, it didn't have the enzymes and the biology to break that down quickly, to turn that back into its constituent molecules, which then can be taken back up to the plant. So yeah, like what's the plant enzyme? Cellulase, right? So plant material is cellulose. You need the enzyme cellulase to break it down. So the bacteria provide that. So yeah, that's a couple. I'm kind of getting.
That's exactly what we're looking for in like a living soil grow, because again, back to the sterile growers, these are two separate paths that you can take and have great success and grow great cannabis, by the way. But one, in a sterile system, you do not want any dead roots. We were just talking about this in the Slack chat. You don't want any decaying matter. You don't want any of that stuff because you don't have the proper biology to break it down. It can only breed bad biology. Whereas in the living soil, fucking chop your plant down at the base, leave the roots in, plant right next to it, baby. It'll chew up those old dead roots of that old plant, no problem. Both are valid strategies, but if you don't cultivate your biology in the living soil, or if you don't keep the dead matter out of the sterile soil, you're going to run into horrible problems either way.
Right.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah. I mean, what we found too is that this biology works in both organic and salt-based regimens.
Sure.
So it's not exclusive to one.
That's true. I guess, no, that's true because mycorrhiza is something that is so widely beneficial, like you said, and probably the same with a lot of the bacteria. So I guess I was just pointing out more the differences in growing philosophy. But when it comes to your products, that's a good point. Beneficial almost across the board with plant life, like you said, right? I know some plants don't like mycorrhiza specifically, but you said 90% of plants are friendly to it?
90%. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is very benign.
What's interesting too is like, even like we've noticed like some of these biology products or, other nutrients kind of clog up and create like a biofilm in people's lines. We've actually seen our products clean lines out and help kind of move that scum through and break it down, which is kind of another argument for both hydro and salt and, both types of grows. So another benefit.
Damn. I was going to say, I almost get like a little SLF feel from your king crab. Like maybe it's just because they're both clear products, but when I transplanted my roots, they looked like I'd washed them with SLF or something.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you have that bacteria and those enzymes. I mean, they just clean that's how I think of it. Is it just keeps everything clean, keeps everything moving.
Wow.
Really stagnation. I mean, you look at a healthy forest soil. You're not seeing a lot of what you would see in like a pot that's been neglected in your house, where you've cut it off from the cycles of nature, right? Of rain washing through, of air, of organic matter, of biology. Like those are moving systems that are constantly, one input, an output of one system is an input to another. It's just this constant nutrient cycling. And how we mimic that, one of the ways we mimic that in our controlled environments is adding in that biological piece. That's why, like I said, I think that's thinking of it in those terms, plant, base organism or our prized organism as the human trying to grow it like what's his name? Botany of desire, right? Like the cannabis plant. That's our focus.
Uh-huh.
But mycopollens, right? But it depends on, it needs fertilizer, but that biological interface is one of the most crucial portions. And it takes a little while as a grower to get to that level. But once you understand the importance of biology, it's like so fascinating.
Yeah, and it's funny because I've always understood it, but it never really clicked until recently, which is like our beloved Mary Beth Sanchez, regenerative agriculture specialist. She's always saying, balance your fungi and your bacteria. She said that on the show 100 times, but I never really had it click until recently, which is, again, as soon as I can, get the bacteria and beneficial mycorrhiza into my seedlings. This is now one of the first things that I'm focusing on, inoculating the material. Buxton Hollow Farm, shout out to them too. They started really making me think about this with their seed starter. They have their compost inoculated seed starter. And that really got me thinking, I need to be inoculating these when they're young, literally when they're starting as seeds, is how early you can do this. It's not like adding nutrients to your seedling. You're not going to fry it.
Yep.
Again, let me ask you that. I saw on the back of the King Crab bottle, it says you can use up to way more than is recommended. Is that just because it's really hard to have too much of this type of bacteria? It's not like overloading the soil with nutrients.
Exactly. That's one of the really cool things is you can just, layer it on there. There's no chance of burning your plants. It's not a nitrogen, right? It's not a fertilizer. It doesn't get hot. It's biology. If it's not used, it dies and it literally becomes plant food.
Wow.
Really, that's what bacteria are. They're little bags of fertilizer. So they're doing their thing. They're pooping. They're ingesting. They're eating. Rocks and minerals. They're turning those elements into tissue. And then when they die or eaten by another organism, that eventually becomes plant food. It becomes bioavailable. It's unlocked from its molecular bonds and becomes available to the plant. And that's a crucial part of plants evolving on terrestrial environments is this process of the soil food web, as Elaine Ingham calls it, which is a perfect description. So yeah, you can't use too much of it. And an important kind of aspect to understand too is we're pushing these plants, right? Like we're pushing the biology. It's not the natural balance in a sense. I mean, we're in pots indoors or, even for outdoor growers, we're not letting the natural succession of ecology take over our land, right? I mean, we are altering the environment. So we're adding these organisms and, we can push them to do a little bit more of what we're seeking,
right?
Which is to break down organic matter. It's like the hot compost method, the Berkeley compost method, right? It's like this thing that people discovered where you can make compost in 30 days if you do it right. You're pushing the biology. You're kind of, I don't want to use the word exploiting, but you're understanding this. You're turbocharging. You're understanding the system and pushing it in a direction. So with the biology, it's kind of the same thing where the natural balance will be reachieved, which in an indoor grow environment, a controlled grow environment is not very high, right? You don't have the inputs keeping the system going. So when you use these inoculants, like mycorrhiza will colonize the root system, but the bacteria, they're going to spike. They're going to peak. So they're going to be releasing enzymes. They're going to be breaking down dead roots and sloughed off roots. They're going to be unlocking nutrients that were caught up in the system. They're going to be turning nutrients that you're watering into tissue. But there's going to be a peak and it's going to find homeostasis, which, like I said, is pretty low when you're cut off all the other inputs of nature. So, by using this weekly, or some people use it every watering, just a little bit, you're keeping everything moving at kind of a maximum velocity. So nothing's getting bound up. Nothing's kind of getting stagnant. That's really when you have problems. It's when you have stagnation, You have unused nutrients, right? And that's when organisms that you don't want to thrive can really take off. So this is just keeping those niches filled. It's keeping them moving. And like I said, it's the oil in the engine. It keeps all the pistons going without friction.
This is really incredible stuff. And like you said, it's like there's been so much focus on that table of elements, right? And now we're learning that there's so much more to it. And all of this is coming to the forefront. It's kind of like the final frontier because it's so little understood. I need to hook you up with Steven Reisner, the aquaponics guy. He just did a recent test on his fish with Mammoth P. I don't remember if he discussed this on the GrowCast episode or if it was on GrowCast TV. Steven Reisner, Fish Detective, I believe that episode. Go check that out at patreon.com/GrowCast. That was a fantastic episode. But he was basically saying how he started using Mammoth P in his reservoir tank, which interacts with your fish. It was so benign. He ended up cranking it up way higher than he anticipated, and it still didn't harm the fish long after it had beneficial effects on the plants. I would love to see what something like king crab would do in a setup like that. And again, if you're dealing with if you just focus on those table of elements, it's like I can't even think of the analogy, because if you tried that with those, you'd kill all your fish. So it's like we're focused on the thing that we know is impactful. It's powerful. It's the main players on the chessboard, but then there's like so much more to it with these more benign substances that I feel are truly the key to unlocking perfect cultivation, in the cannabis world and outside of the cannabis world, I'd imagine. So,
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I
didn't really set you up for anything there. I was just saying something.
No, I've got a couple things. I've got a couple things to say, but I want to read this because it's so well put. This is something I have written down. So stimulating plant growth was once entirely attributed to supplemental applications of NPK fertilizers, but the emphasis has shifted to secondary metabolites produced by beneficial soil bacteria. You're right. It's the new frontier, right? Like I mean, look at the Dust Bowl, go study that, go study topsoil loss. Like NPK fertilizers have extreme drawbacks, and just focusing on that is a losing strategy. I think it's Mary Beth that comes on your show. I studied underneath all these, West Coast permaculture folks, Eric Olson, what's her name? Penny Stark, Starhawk, Kevin Bayuk. I had, all these permaculture
you just said
mentors.
The three of the coolest names. Penny Starhawk? That guy's name is Bayou? These sound like, those are dope ass names.
Penny Stark, the regenerative.
Oh, Stark. I thought you said Starhawk. I was like,
look up, Google Starhawk. Starhawk was my first permaculture teacher. She's a witch.
Oh, okay. Nice. There you go.
She's also an author. She wrote a book called The Fifth Sacred Thing. She's an amazing woman.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, these are like West Coast permaculture powerhouse people.
That's cool.
And I learned early on that degrading soil is a losing strategy for humanity, and we really need to look at holistic methods. And the biological portion is how you build soil. So it's the new paradigm. It's the oldest paradigm, and it's really the only winning paradigm.
I love that, man. Clip that.
What I was going to say about, the way that I think about it is probiotics. That's the best way to understand it. So a lot of these species are used as human probiotics too. A lot of I'm not advocating, please, nobody eat our products.
It doesn't taste like crab. I know the crab on the front looks delicious. Listen, I'm a huge fan of crab, but do not ingest these products. However, what you're saying is
chitin going. They're people and pet friendly. A lot of the species in our bacteria blends are used as human probiotics. Like you'll buy a kombucha or like a Kavita. I forget what they're called. The other
sure. No, I know what you're saying.
Probiotic, and they'll actually have these bacteria species in them. But they're probiotics, so they're bacteria that work in harmony with the larger organisms, right? And we depend on our biology and our gut, and more of that research is showing how important that is. And so we take probiotics to boost the biology and to boost our health. Same thing with pets. And it's the same thing with plants. The root system is the stomach of the plant, and it depends on this whole biological component for its digestion. And that's all we're really doing. And so it makes sense to me that feeding these fish probiotics would be beneficial to them. So
whoa, that is
makes
super
sense.
interesting, man. And just really quick, this is something we brought up on the show before. This is something that came up on my other show, the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. Harvard medical Dr. Sanjeev Chopra talking about his theory as to why organic foods might be better for you, having less to do with the fertilizers themselves, obviously pesticides and things like that attribute. But what he was saying was the sterility and lack of those pro and prebiotics being basically built into the fabric of the food that we're eating is making our gut microbiomes lack some of those very important species of bacteria and not thrive. And then on top of that, we're pouring soda and alcohol, which kills our gut bacteria. We're now finding that most diseases originate from the gut. They're tying it to all sorts of crazy disorders you would never think of, from diabetes to autism, being tied to early gut imbalances as far back as they can look. So it's really, really crazy, the developing science. And there is a link. There is 100% a link between the soil food web and the human microbiome. They're not just a good analogy for one another. I believe there is a direct link there. So I look forward to people much smarter than me doing research and finding out more about the truth about this. It's crazy, man.
I love it. I mean, it's also an ancient thing, right? Like, it doesn't take Harvard PhD to realize that toxins and poisons on our food.
Well, that's what Dr. Coffee is always saying. He's like,
you can trace it. Yeah, you can trace it to,
Yeah, that's why I love on the Coffee, Health, and Science podcast. Dr. Coffee is always like quoting the Bible, because like it says it in the Bible to rotate your crops. It has all this ancient wisdom, and we laugh because there's a bunch of stuff that's incorrect as well. But it's like, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater here, folks. I don't know. It's funny.
Right.
It's interesting, and I love that we're able to be part of it. That's crazy though. Maybe that's one of the reasons some of the king crab looked familiar. The same probiotics that are in some kombuchas. That is fascinating stuff, man. Can I pour the kombucha on my plants, or I'll just go for the king crab for now? I'll skip pouring the kombucha directly on the plants.
I drink kombucha while tending to my garden, but we have not done the research on kombucha and plant growth and vigor.
That's the next frontier. Well, you can cheers the king crab with your kombucha. That's perfect.
That's right.
Listen, man, this was an easy flowing episode. You're such a great guest. We really love having you. Well, before we wrap it up though, any final thoughts on king crab you want to touch on? And then follow-up question, what is next? 5 years of testing. What's the next 5-year plan?
So king crab is coming at you. We're working hard. I'm hitting the road. It's going to be in stores. Go check it out. Give it a shot. We're getting it out into the stores. I'm going to be bringing a bunch of samples around. So ask your store for it. Hit us up on Instagram. We'll be doing a ton of giveaways coming up here in a short time. Go use it. If you don't see a benefit, don't use it again, but give it a shot. Use it every week. It's really going to, like I said, just enhance everything else you're doing. We stand behind all of our products. We really, know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a long time. Reach out if you have any questions. info@plantrevolution.com. Check out Instagram at Great White Myco. Same thing, Facebook at Great White Myco. Website's plantrevolution.com. Yeah, reach out, get in touch, give it a shot. And then what's next? Yeah, we're working on a number of things. What we didn't bring up was we had recently come out with a food for the microbes. Something really targeted. It's called the Myco Chum.
Oh, the Myco Chum. I'm sorry. I didn't even know that was a newer product. I'd seen people posting about it. I got some and I love it. This is specifically, as you said, this is to feed the microbes that you're already using, whatever they may be.
It's what we've used to grow the mycorrhizae over the years.
Whoa.
So it's basically fish, kelp, humic acids, and molasses, all in the most organic, easy to digest form for the biology. You don't use a whole lot of it. It's a supplement. It's not going to replace your nutrients, but it does provide you with making sure you're hitting all your micronutrient minimums. And it's got these carbohydrates in there that are just great for the biology.
Holy shit.
So it makes them last a little bit longer in your root zone. That's a great product. Check that out. And stay tuned. I can't give any details on specifics at this point.
Oh, come on. I was like, wait a second. And there's something else here. I can feel it. So you're telling me there's something big in the works. You just can't tell us quite yet.
We're always working on new products. Our R&D is fantastic.
Well, let me think here. And are you going to get into like some sort of nematode application? I mean, you've done biologies and mycos and mixes of those. Are you going to continue doing a different blend, or are you going to step outside of the field a little bit? If we're talking about microbes, technically nematodes are, I think I'm onto something.
I think you are. Maybe we should go into business. No, there's nothing I can say. There's nothing on nematodes at the moment right now. We are working on.
I thought I was genius.
You are genius. And
thank you.
We're working on some biology boosters. It's a little bit different than the mycochum. I think kind of like a biochar, but it's this new stuff that I'm not the researcher, but it's along those lines of biology apartments is what I've heard it described. Little condominiums for the biology that you can mix into your soil. So
that's a good teaser. We don't want to get you in trouble, so that'll be enough for now. But that's good. I love that. Jim, this was fantastic, man. Anything else here before we sign off? I can't thank you enough for making an appearance.
Well, I just want to say, Jordan, you're the man. I listen to this when I'm working out, tending to my garden, driving down the road. This is, I think, the best podcast out there. I listen to a few. There's a few really good podcasters, good information, non-biased. I love listening to your show. You're the community. I need to get into like your Patreon and your
the Slack chat.
I'm not tech. Well, I didn't come from the video game realm. All my video game friends know about Slack. And, all these other like
Discord
chat groups. Discord. That's what I'm thinking of.
Right, man. We're actually moving to Discord shortly, but we'd love to have you in there. And thank you, Jim. That means a lot to us, man. Like we're building a huge community here. I get a lot of flattering messages from fans. I appreciate each and every one of those. And when the guests come on and say that, that's an extra layer of compliment. So thank you, Jim. And you're welcome in the community, man. We'll get you in there ASAP.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. I guess that wraps it up, everybody. Fantastic episode. Enjoy. And of course, plant revolution. Get your king crab. Go bother your hydro store guy about it. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from Jim in the future. At GrowCast on Instagram, at Great White Myco on Instagram. And that's all, folks. This is Jim Eagan and Jordan River signing off, saying have an extraordinary day, be safe out there, and grow smarter. That's our show for today, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. Before we wrap it up, got to give some love to the FOOP nutrients. Go to thefoop.com. Use code GrowCast the first time for 10% off, and GrowCast forever. That's the numeral 4EVA for 5% off lifetime. Go give it a try. You will love it. This is certified organic fish-based nutrient line. It's a staple in my garden. They've got a killer clone gel. They're coming out with a mist. They are a very, very passionate company, and you can find them at thefoop.com. Like I said, GrowCast the first time and GrowCast forever after that. Give it a try. You will not regret it. All right, everybody. Special thanks to Jay Blank for doing the beat. Rizo Rich over at GrowCast Seed Co. and Illinois Canna Consulting. Thank you, listeners and subscribers and members, and all of you folks for spreading the show. You guys mean a lot to me. Could not do it without you. I look forward to bringing you better and better cannabis content as we move forward here with GrowCast. All right, folks. Bye-bye.